Greetings, humans. My name is Josh Smokey Hale Nelson, and this is The Smoke Show. On today's episode, we have our check-in with the people of the Stacks app, an update on last episode's Brian Flores situation, a few thoughts on some news items in the NFL, because they're coming in like fucking crazy right now, and more. However, before we get into the usual podcast niceties, I would like to share some thoughts about the expectations that we have as fans of these athletes that we cheer for. Now, this topic has been brought to the forefront due to recent and ongoing Russian invasion of the sovereign country of Ukraine. Full disclosure, I struggle with how I feel on this subject. On one hand, I understand that these athletes are just people and are being put into difficult pedestals in regards to commenting on geopolitical situations. On the other hand, as internationally recognized voices, their thoughts, opinions, and perspective hold a certain cachet. Not just with North Americans, but with citizens around the world. There's a good chance that people outside of North America know and recognize someone like LeBron James over someone like Lloyd J. Austin III. That's the current United States Secretary of Defense, by the way. Part and parcel with being internationally recognized is a level of responsibility for your thoughts, statements, and actions. Back in 2019, when LeBron and others were engaged in exhibition games in China, there was an incident where the general manager of the Houston Rockets had sent a tweet in support of the protesters in Hong Kong. ESPN paraphrased. James told the room that it was too much for the players to take on in that moment, to explain a complicated issue with racial, socioeconomic, and geopolitical layers while visitors in China. I can appreciate LeBron's self-awareness in this situation to recognize that those sort of comments would inevitably lead to an unwelcome batch of drama and escalation, especially while still in the foreign nation. When the players arrived back stateside from China, LeBron finally commented, and honestly, it might have been better if he didn't. The situation was unwinnable for him, no matter what side he appeared to take. NBA China is a massive business worth billions annually, and LeBron was likely trying to appease on behalf of the main portion of his earned income. I think we could all relate to that on some level. This brings me back to my main thought. What expectations do we truly have of these athletes? When world issues arise, should athletes be the one that we are going to for comment and wisdom on situations that require such extreme amounts of nuance and information at the best of times? This is a subject larger than myself, so I took to the Stack streets to ask the people what their expectations for athletes in these situations are. Before that, though, in this specific situation, Russia is not particularly well represented in the major North American sports. The last Russian NBA player was Timothy Mozgov, who went back to Russia in 2019. The last in the MLB was Victor Cole in 92, and the last in the NFL was Iskatovsky, a fullback who last played in 1939. Coincidentally, the same year that Tom Brady was born. Even Major League Soccer hasn't had a Russian since 2010. The NHL, however, is an exception to this rule, whose league counts over 4 dozen Russians among its current player pool, the 4th biggest feeder country of NHL talent. Not only that, but some of the most premier players in the sport represent Russia. Names like Alexander Ovechkin and Evgeny Malkin immediately come to mind. Ovechkin himself has been a known supporter of Putin and is himself one of the most high-profile athletes from Russia. He is also one of the few to go on record with a statement, a certainly measured response that toes the line of not falling on either side. And I quote, "Please, no more war. It doesn't matter who is in the war. Russia, Ukraine, different countries. I think we live in a world that we have to live in peace." A very diplomatic statement, but ask yourself, what would you say? What would you say to a hounding media while your wife, your children, and your parents are still within a country known for murderous retribution towards anything viewed as seditious or traitorous? I struggle with how I feel about this subject. Having a wife and a young son, it's a really difficult mindset to put myself into. So let's hear from the people of Stacks and see what they have to say.
What's up, Stacks? This is Mike with Nerd Sports. I'm China Mike. My expectation is that the athletes understand that this is a very difficult situation, as I'm sure they do. And it's a very difficult situation to speak on, but I think little things like writing no war please on the camera and like things like that is just good things to do to like help stand as a country and as a people, and I think that there is a high expectation for them to help bring attention to this in the best way.
So I think this is a really interesting topic. I don't think it's an easy answer to it because you want the players to say something, but when you talk about some of these other countries, you're talking about Russia. Another one that really was popular back a couple of years ago was Enes Kanter talking about President of Turkey. Well, he essentially got treason charges and had an expedite for his arrest if he went to certain countries. So you're talking about stuff like that. You're talking about with Russians, maybe their family still lives there. Maybe the government will come after some of their family too. So you want these players to say something, but you have to say the right things at this point.
Man, it is the journalist's literal job to ask those questions to certain players, and up to the journalist's discretion to warrant which players they want to hear from, which their consumers want to hear from. It's also the duty of that said player to answer the questions or not answer the questions how they see fit. So let the journalists ask the questions and let the athletes answer with if they want to or not.
No, I agree. I fully understand that there's a journalist's responsibility to ask those questions and who to and all that. But I'm asking, what are your expectations on these athletes? Like, let me frame it another way. Say LeBron James was playing in an international friendly competition over in the Middle East somewhere, and reporters were asking him to comment on the indiscriminate bombing and killing of civilians that Americans have perpetrated over there. Would you expect him to?
Yeah, Smokey, I see what you're saying. I think I would. For me personally, my expectation for them would just be answer as a human, not on behalf of anybody, not on behalf of anything else. But therein lies the problem, right? Because if you do ask, to use your example of LeBron, LeBron speaks for America to a lot of people in the world, so he has to come with much more of a guarded response. So I think it's situational, and it also kind of depends on the circumstance. But there is the difference between a superstar speaking on behalf of a country versus not.
Rory, now we're getting the meat and potatoes of it. Answer as a human. That's it, not as a representative of everything. So, in that regard, those expectations are probably going to be there from a lot of people, anyways. So, should every athlete of note, like say LeBron James, who has international recognition, should they start off every statement by saying, "I am not a representative of anything other than my own thoughts and feelings"? Because even if they do say that before any kind of statement, is that just going to be cut out of the soundbite of the quote from the same journalist asking these questions? How do you sprinkle it in there so they can't cut it out? I mean, you got to be pretty fucking direct with your statements these days, especially if you are a big name.
Yeah, I'm glad you jumped in there because I typed up what I'm gonna say here. But basically, I mean, you're not gonna solve the problem. People are always gonna associate you with your country and whatever you say, but you can certainly help in some regards. And eventually, hopefully, you'll get to a point where people will start taking athletes at their face value as a human being first, and not a representative of what they come from or what they're wearing or what team they're playing for. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll help. It's not gonna solve it.
Yeah, a lot of that it's ambassadorship. It's like what answer it what in a comfortable way for you within the scope of knowledge and comfort that you have as an individual. For LeBron James, that scope is huge, and the knowledge may not be alongside that. But he really doesn't have a win in that situation because if he answers too much, then he's gonna get shot down for it. If he doesn't answer enough, he's hiding something. It's just, I mean, I would hate to be in that position.
All right, so yeah, when it comes to athletes commenting on world events and everything like that, especially with stuff going on now, I've got no expectations whatsoever. Let's be honest, if they're getting asked questions, they're put on the spot. Generally, a lot of the time it's after the game, after the match, whatever they're doing. They're going to be put on the spot. If they say something that's ill-informed or they're not as knowledgeable, they're going to get torn to shreds about it, so no expectations.
Hey man, as long as they're on the path to good, that's all I care about.
I don't have any expectations. They don't need to comment on it if they don't want to. If they want to, let them comment. Whatever. I don't care either way. No one should have any expectations if a Russian athlete wants to comment on the war or not. If they don't want to comment on it, then they won't. And that shouldn't be held against them. Me personally, I don't give a damn what an athlete says. Athlete's not going to influence me to change my mind on things at all. I'm not 7.
I think Mikey had a great point at the end there, which could be succinctly summed up in some situations as just grow the fuck up. A sad note on my Cowboys, as it's looking likely that Amari Cooper will be an unfortunate and misguided cap casualty in hopes of retaining Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz. As much as I love Gallup and what Schultz proved last year, this is not an upgrade, man. Amari Cooper is a very talented wide receiver who has a great rapport with Dak, and the Cowboys are in no way better off without him. Fuck! If this does happen, though, they better start feeding that ball nonstop to my guy, Sedarian Lamb, because he has all the talent required to lead an offense. Just start putting some trust in him. Kellen? Mike? Are you listening? Feed Lamb the fucking ball! Balance the run volume between Zeke and Pollard, make Lamb the number 1 target, and give him some usage out of the backfield. I'm not talking Debo, so don't hear what I'm not saying. And let Gallup burn him down the outside when he's recovered. As for Amari, I want to see him go somewhere he can continue to thrive. Somewhere like Chicago or Jacksonville, paired with a young stud quarterback like Fields or Lawrence, whom he can help bring along and elevate with his superb route running ability. Even a team like Atlanta that gives them some much needed depth at wide receiver, especially if Ridley decides to move on for them. And at this point, I have to pause because it has just come out that Calvin Ridley has been suspended for the entire 2022 season, allowed to be applied for reinstatement on February 15th, 2023 for doing a bit of online gambling on his phone while he was taking time off to get his mental health right last year. During a 5-day period, he put down $1,500 in some parlay bets, and apparently they are nailing his balls to the wall. So to loop that back, I mean, he's not there for 2022, so making a move for a guy like Amari Cooper, that's good. That's good. That's something you got to kick the tires at if you were Atlanta and Amari is released. I mean, if Ridley was there, fuck Ridley, Cooper, Kyle Pitts, re-sign Cordarrelle, man, that's not bad, man. I mean, it's still Matt Ryan back there, but there's always the 2023 quarterbacks. I just hate this. I hate that the Cowboys have mismanaged their cap space to the point where we have to lose a talent like Amari Cooper. I mean, thankfully, the one offensive position in this draft is deep in his wide receiver. The combine has certainly helped fire the steam up on that particular hype train. Since our last episode, there have been new developments in a topic we were touching on. Last episode, I asked the people if they thought that Brian Flores would ever get hired as a coach in the NFL again. And there was certainly a ring of doubt in the minds of the people. Since then, he has been hired on by the Pittsburgh Steelers as a senior defensive assistant, focusing on the linebacker group. However, even with this hire, Flores is pushing ahead with his class action lawsuit. Now, some have suggested the Steelers were pressured into the hire, as Coach Tomlin had not made much in the way of diversity hires at the coordinator level in his first 14 years of coaching the Steelers. Now, whether this is a doorway to that happening or even a springboard to another head coaching gig down the road remains to be seen. But I wanted to hit the stack streets and see what people have to say. Roll it!
Well, there are only a handful of upstanding
franchises in the National Football League. Out of 32, there might be 4 to 5 upstanding, full-on, progressively minded franchises from top to bottom. Pittsburgh is number one. No surprise at all that they were the ones to pick up Brian Flores and reward him for being a good coach. Here you go.
What's up, Stacks? It's Mike with Nerd Sports Zone. Love the name, love the new logo. It looks pretty sweet. It's a good topic, Smokey. I'm going to be trying to be on here a little more as well, too. So I think that Brian Flores getting hired by Mike Tomlin and the Steelers is a good thing because that team is set up, no pun intended, stacked on defense, and they look good the past couple seasons. I think if they get a couple pieces figured out for that team, they can be very good.
So the Steelers, great organization. They made a move to help their best interest of their team, regardless of everything else. In terms of the lawsuit, I don't think it changes much. It's still going to be going on. It's still something that he is fighting for personally for other people. So I think that's going to be ongoing, but I think it's a great move picking up Brian Flores. I think it's hopefully a good thing for Devin Bush, who's not looked as good as we had hoped. Maybe that helps resurrect his career, at least as early on in his career.
All right, so yeah, it's just another classy move from the Pittsburgh organization. You expect nothing else from them. I guess if anyone was going to pick up Flores, then they would have been top of the list to expect it from them. So well done from them. Hopefully he continues his coaching career. We all know how good he can be. So hopefully this is just a first step on him taking another head coaching job down the line. But who knows what's going to happen there. But for now, good job, Pittsburgh.
Man, shout out to the Honduras brother, Brian Flores, man, got a new gig. You feel me? With Mike Tomlin, who has a disdain for the evil emperor, Bill Belichick, so he's sticking to him there by hiring his guy. Will this hurt Brian Flores' lawsuit? Fuck no. It's a class action lawsuit. So that means there's hella motherfuckers. Hey, the NFL is going to pay a settlement to keep that shit as quiet as fuck is already ugly.
Hey, Smokey, Hell, Super Davis, yeah. I think I'm the only one on this app that said Brian Flores would get another coaching job. A lot of people said he would never, ever, ever get another coaching job again. All those guys were completely 1,000% wrong.
The NFL said, your rule is why he is fucking suing us, so you better hire this motherfucker. That's what the NFL said. The NFL said, you better hire him. You better fucking hire him. That's what the NFL said. They said, because your rules what did it to us, motherfucker. It don't mean shit. Once you start the process of suing a company like that, you in it. Now he's I'm sure he's grateful he got another job, but he's in it to win it.
It's a great question, Drunken Monkey. I'm glad you brought that up. Smokey too. I think that's worth drilling into a little bit. And I mean, look, would anybody put it past the NFL to have behind the scenes conversations and try to change narratives and work things in a way that makes them look as good as possible? That's what they do. So, and look, with this stuff going on, the whole league looks bad. You know, every team in it looks bad. Yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers have Tomlin, so they don't look as bad, but it's still a bad look and it's bad for business. So, look, I don't think it's exactly falling on the sword if you're Pittsburgh, because he's a good coach. And if the main issues, even if they are true, are like interpersonal with the GM and stuff like that, then if that's not his job, those issues won't be there, and you just have a good coach. So no matter how you spin it, that should be okay. And if he's able to get another head coaching job at some point, Pittsburgh is going to get those draft picks, right? Those picks for spreading diversity in the head coaching ranks. So I think it's really smart by Pittsburgh in all ways. And if the NFL did it, good for them, I guess. But regardless, I think it's a smart move by Pittsburgh.
So I think Pittsburgh are the sort of organisation that they would have made that hire no matter what. Whether the NFL stepped in and sort of put pressure on teams to make the hire, who knows? You wouldn't put it past the NFL. They're a bunch of shady motherfuckers. So, but yeah, I think Pittsburgh would have made that hire no matter what. That's just the sort of organisation they are. So good for them for doing it. Hopefully it works out well for Flores, and obviously it'll.
Last episode, I said that hiring him would be a brilliant move PR-wise, and I still think it's not unlikely that the NFL applied pressure in one form or another to make this happen in hopes of alleviating the pressure of the class action lawsuit. I still maintain that Brian Flores was one of the better coaching candidates out there during this hiring cycle, and Pittsburgh might have been able to bolster their coaching depth at a discount because of all this. This lawsuit is a topic of great interest, so we will keep y'all updated. Now, I kept this one to the end because I didn't want the entire episode to be a nonstop tirade against the Russians, but there is one more situation of note. WNBA star Brittney Griner was detained on her way out of Russia and arrested for possession of cannabis vape cartridges. It doesn't sound like a big deal to North American ears, but in Russia, that can be up to 10 years in prison. Griner is also an openly gay black woman, something that is not looked favorably upon in that country. We're not going to dive into the fact that WNBA players should be paid well enough where they don't have to go overseas to Russia and Ukraine for better pay to support themselves in the offseason. We're also not going to get into the fact that weed should be legal everywhere. It's weed. What has it done wrong? I mean, there should be no ifs, ands, or buts about where myself and this show stand on the topic. Now, there's two ways this situation could have happened. A, she had the cannabis vape cartridges and either wasn't caught up on the legalities where she was playing, or B, the cartridges weren't there. Griner has been playing overseas for years, so not knowing the laws seems less likely. It's also possible she knew and tried anyways, but knowing what she faces over there, it also doesn't seem likely. Holding high-profile citizens on trumped-up charges is not an uncommon tactic in times such as these, where we are on the precipice and bargaining tools are being collected. Griner was the last of the WNBA players abroad to have made her way back, only she never got there. Hard to comment one way or another beyond that, but definitely something to monitor, and our thoughts are with Griner, and we wish for an expedited return. If you are listening on Spotify, please take the half second to leave a 5-star rating, as they are new to Spotify, and I want all the stars like Mario 64. For you young people, that was on a gaming system where you had to actually physically take a game cartridge and plug her into the top there. Anyways, look it up on YouTube. Use the other half second from earlier and hit the subscribe button on the way out. I greatly appreciate it. As always, this podcast is proudly presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. For the uninitiated, the Fantasy Points Media Group is home to a collection of the most knowledgeable and profitable minds in the industry. You like money? You like fantasy points? You want to hashtag score more? Then what are you waiting for? From statistical analysis to DFS betting knowledge in multiple sports to the hottest new prospects coming out of the college ranks, the Fantasy Points Media Group has a show that will cover your needs and more. Now, the benevolent parent behind that group is the fantasypoints.com. That's just fantasypoints.com. There's no the, which has finally given me my new code for the year now that the Super Bowl is out of the way. So head on over to fantasypoints.com and use the promo code SMOKEY22. That is SMOKEY22. Nice and easy. For a discount on the hottest collection of football minds ever. Seriously, ever. Fantasypoints.com. Promo SMOKEY22. And that's it. There you have it. Part of the ethos since the rebirth of the Smoke Show was to provide the perspectives of the people through the Stacks app. I'm really happy to say that I've found the perfect avenue for that. This is literally the single easiest way to get your opinion heard on the Smoke Show. So what are you waiting for, man? Go download that shit. It's free. It's a blast talking sports and talking shit, while also getting some insanely great info for sports betting. I want to thank each and every one of you for sticking it out to the end. Before we sign off, I'd like to give a shout out to the following people who contributed their stories for today's pod. On Stacks, you can find today's contributors, the Avenge Nerd, Coach Craig Sports, Bo McBig Time, LFG Friar Native, Beard 82, Filthy Sam, Game Point Live, the GMM Network, Bogart, Super Dave, the Drunken Monkey, and Derek. You are all fucking gems in my books and friends of the Smoke Show. If you wouldn't mind, shoot us a follow on Twitter at _smoke_show. And you can follow me at Smokey Hell NFL on Twitter and the Stacks app. That's the only places I am. My name is Josh Smokey Hell Nelson. And all I've got left to say is, where there's smoke, there's fire.